Gospel Showcase presents Don Frost and Friends, the place to be seen and heard. Now sit back and enjoy an hour of great gospel music with your host, Don Frost.
Thank you, Donna. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a great show for you today. I have a guest. His name is Ralph Moore. Ralph is the author of this book that we'll be talking about during the show. And I'm telling you, he and I have been talking a long time, and we got a picture of it up there for you right now, about safety. And he drove some of the top quartets for years, especially the Lefevres especially, and he's seen it all. And this is a valuable book. In fact, when my grandson got ready to start getting his license, I told Ralph to get me a book. And we're going to be talking about that and why it's so important throughout this next 58 and a half minutes, all right? First of all, it's a pleasure having you here.
Well, thank you, Don. It's good to be here.
We've known each other for a long time.
51 years.
50-something years.
Yes.
And you drove for the Lefevres
right.
for years, been all over the United States driving.
Yeah, Canada, all of it.
Now, what led you or really give you the inspiration to write this book?
Well, you know, I'd been driving about 15 years when I learned to drive. And I've said that lots of times. Paul Hughes was the driver for the Lefevres.
Paul.
And the Lefevres hired me to learn to drive and take Paul's place eventually. And as I watched him drive, I said, there's no way in this life that I can ever drive a motor coach the way Paul Hughes does. Well, he finally took me out to the fairground at the Atlanta Fair, you know, and showed me a few things. And one of the things he said was, now, if you're going to get upset when I tell you you don't know nothing about driving, said, we don't need to go any farther. And I said, well, Paul, I'm here to learn. He said, all right, let's go. He said, I tell you that because most of the time when you tell somebody they don't know how to drive, they get mad. But he said 90% of the people out there on the road have no clue of what they're doing. And I come to realize that as I travel, because I hadn't been nowhere back in Alabama except the crossroads to town and back, you know. And all of a sudden, here I am on the road coast to coast and throughout Canada. And I saw things happening, and it just all came alive to me. And I was with the Lefevres almost 20 years. And I saw a lot of wrecks on the road. I saw cars strode down the highway and where people had been killed in the whole 9 yards. And through those years, it just became a passion to me to share what I had learned and put it in book form, because I realized that most people, they pass their driver's test, but that's nothing in the world. It only gives you a legal right to learn to drive. And the state don't provide you with anything when it comes to highway safety. And a lot of people think when they pass the driver's test that the state's qualified them. They're great. They can go, parents can go out and buy a new car and turn the kid loose, say, now go have a good time. But that kid don't know anything. And that's why I put all these things into this book. And we call it really the common sense rules of driving, because nobody has ever published it, printed it at all.
35,000 deaths each year on our streets and highway. That should be enough to tell us.
Yes.
That we don't know it all.
That's right. You know, with 35,000 plus people dying on our streets and highways every year, why is there something not done about it? All they're doing is fixing the car. There's nothing wrong with the car. It's the nut holding the steering wheel that needs to be worked on. And you have to get their attention, or we're going to keep having deaths. Man,
this book is so valuable.
Right.
So how do we get people to read it? And you shouldn't have to wait until there's a bad accident.
That's right, you should.
And as you say here, passing the driver's test should not be a signal to buy a child a vehicle of their own.
That's right.
At this point, they are years from understanding the true responsibility.
Study shows it takes 5 to 10 years or 50,000 miles of driving just to make a person an average driver. So what can that 15, 16, 17-year-old possibly know? It's in this book. I've often said this is the second most important book that one can have in their home. First being the Bible. And this is the second, and it should be in every home. And every parent and grandparent or guardian should insist on the drivers reading it.
But where can they get this book?
They can go to our website,
VDT-info.com. All right, now I'll tell you what you do. Write my number down because people forget a lot of times. My number's been there 20-something years, 888-645-5357. And anything you need to know, if you can't find the information, you call me, it's toll free. I am in touch with Ralph from time to time, and we'll see that it gets done. You really need just for your kids, yourself, or whomever, because I'm going to tell you, nobody can drive. Most of the people on the road don't know what they're supposed to do. They're texting all the time. You better put that phone down and drive your car and watch, as I've taught all my life, like that person is going to run out in front of you. He's going to pull into you, and 9 times out of 10, you might just be right.
And vehicle crashes are caused, therefore they are preventable. But it takes driving knowledge to prevent those wrecks. And it's not furnished to you by your state. The state don't care whether you have that knowledge or not. If they did, they'd give it to you.
Sure.
But you have to go out. A family is responsible for their own family's highway safety, and you have to go out and find that. But you won't go to a bookstore and find any information on highway safety, and that's sad.
Just watch the cars, and they're always in a hurry, can't wait, going to just, it's like Russian roulette.
It is. And you know, if there was driver respect, one for another, one motorist to another, the interstates could be the safest ribbon of highway in the world. But it's not. And you know, they tell us that distraction is the #1 cause of crashes. I believe disrespect is equal to that.
No question about it.
Yes.
And just everything that you talk about. And folks, I tell you, it's going to get worse out there.
Oh, it's getting worse every year, Don. I mean, driving is so different. There's so much pressure out there that people just don't realize. And some of the topics in our book, one in particular says driving games and actually playing in the car. And teenagers are bad about doing this. You know, they pick up their friends and here they go to a party and having a good time. They should wait until they get to the place where the party is being held instead of trying to have it in the car. But they're picking at each other, they're fighting, and just doing things like this. And this should never happen in the car. And we had an incident up there in my hometown where some boys were playing like this, and there were 3 of them in the car, and one reaches over and pulls up the emergency brake to tease the driver. It startled the driver. He ran off the road and hit a power pole and killed one of the boys. And it's just things that kids need to understand what they need to be doing, and that's paying attention to the what's going on in that vehicle. But I would like to come into the church and have maybe 30, 45 minutes to talk about the book and its detail, give people an opportunity to have a book there if they want it, and bring a quartet with me to sing for them, you know, and entertain, and make it a real good program. And, you know, they have all kind of programs going on every summer for their youth, but they don't ever talk about one of the most dangerous activities those kids will ever be involved in is driving. Nobody wants to talk about that because they assume everybody's all right.
Remember how to get in touch with us. All you got to do, you know, is call me at 888-645-5357, and I'll get a hold of Ralph. But don't forget, to, as far as ordering the book, if we can put that back up there again, go on the website, and you can get that done. And so we want to make sure you get in touch with Ralph and buy this book. And there we are. We've got it up there. You've got to do it. You've got to do it. And we've got to do something. And the more people we've got that are informed on the road, the safer I am. Ralph, good to have you.
Good to be here.